Welcome to Fairways to Heaven with your host, Christian author and PGA member John Decker. Join John as he discusses all things golf, including useful instructional techniques and tips from your swing to a better game strategy. John will also talk about the importance of his faith and how it relates to his life and golf. So if you're a Christian who loves the game of golf or wants to learn how to play it, then this is the show for you. Now, please welcome the host of Fairways to Heaven, John Decker.
Welcome to the Fairways to Heaven show. I'm your host, John Decker, and we are streaming live on Bold Brave TV. If you miss a show, please go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you stream your podcast to download a show. Now, this show is designed to help you improve your game while glorifying God. And I invite you to go to my website, deckergolf.com. Now, this website is designed to help you as a player. And on the website, I have my videos. I have my full swing, putting, chipping, pitching, bunker, course management, and golf fitness videos. They're all on that website, and they're all organized so that you can pull up different categories. I have about over 200 of instructional videos. But I also have information on there about my two books, Golf Tips Magazine information that I'm a senior editor for Golf Tips Magazine, so I have information on there as well. Information on my Bible study, which I have 16 churches now and groups that have used my Bible study, and speaking engagement information. So if you're looking for a public speaker, I'd love to come to your facility and speak. I'd like to welcome those of you listening on the live broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We welcome you to the show. And last week's show was show number 11, and our theme last week was the Savior. Now, last week we talked about putting, and we had two videos on there. I had the first video was a drill to help you have a more consistent putting stroke. And the second video was a simple tip to help you eliminate the yips. So if you struggle with the yips, or if you're struggling in your putting, you may want to go back and watch those episodes or listen to those episodes, and hopefully you'll get some good information from them. My special guest last week was Jimmy Logue, and Jimmy is the Director of Instruction for the Country Club at Muirfield Village and the owner of JL Golf Lab in Dublin, Ohio. And then in the final segment, I talked about the perfect shot I hit during the U.S. Open qualifier and the disastrous result that followed. Now, if you've missed any of the first 11 shows, I invite you again to deckergolf.com, or please subscribe to my YouTube channel, John Decker Golf Instruction, and you'll be notified and you'll never miss another episode. Now, today's show is coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio. I am teaching up at the Medallion Club here in Columbus, and I'll be here from April through November. And then in December, I go back to Florida and I teach in Naples at the Dennis Meyer Golf School. So if you live in the Ohio or the Florida areas and you want to come out and do a lesson with me, feel free to reach out and go to deckergolf.com. My contact information is on there. But if you live in different parts of the country or even the world and you want to do online instruction, feel free to reach out on the website, and I have online instruction available. All you have to do is simply send me a couple videos. I can look at those and I will email you back video instructions for what you need to work on. Now, I'm a proud member of the PGA of America and have been since 1997, senior editor for Golf Tips Magazine and a Christian author. Now, we want you, the audience, to participate. I know that the audience is growing. I get the numbers every day. And so if you have any golf specific questions, please dial 1-866-451-1451. That number is on the screen. Feel free to reach out, or you can simply go to the live chat and you can type in your question, and I'll do my best to get to that question during the show. If I can't get to it during the show, I'll get to it in a future show. Or again, you can go to deckergolf.com, my contact information, email me a question, and I'll be glad to get to it on a future show as well. Now, every show that we do has a theme, and today's theme is grace. In segment 1, I'm going to talk about the forgiveness of the modern day golf equipment, the driver heads and the advent of the lob wedge and the importance of the bounce. And then I also have a video on how to hit a high pitch shot off a tight lie. Now, in segment 2 and segment 3, my special guest is Maddi Shoults. Now, Maddi is a member of the women's golf team at Youngstown State University, and I actually work with Maddi, and so she's a very good player, and I can't wait to have her on the show. And then in the final segment, I will talk about the difference between golf and God's grace. Now, every show that we do has scripture, and today's scripture is from Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 through 10. And again, all of my scripture comes from the New King James Version. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Now, my pledge to you, the audience, is from day one that this is a Christian golf show, and we are going to have a heavy emphasis on golf instruction. So let's get right into some golf instruction. Now, I mentioned that today's theme is grace. And golf is just the most difficult game that I've ever played in my life, and I think most people would agree with that. But technology has helped make the game easier and made it also easier to learn and easier to play. And when I think about the clubs that I started with persimmon heads, which is real wood. I try to tell the kids I work with all the time, I said, my driver was real wood. And so when I pick up these U.S. kids clubs and a lot of the clubs that the new players are starting with, I kind of smile and laugh and say, I didn't have anything nearly this easy to hit. So technology has definitely made it easier for us to play this game, even though it's still a very difficult game. But golf is a game of mishits. And the difference between a tour player and a club professional like myself, or an 18 handicapper and a scratch golfer, are not the good shots, it's the bad shots or the mishits. Club manufacturers have made golf clubs more forgiving. Today's technology gives grace to the average golfer and takes the elite players to highest levels possible. Longer shafts, graphite shafts, cavity back, golf balls that travel farther, all of these are examples of technology that has improved during my lifetime and made the game easier to learn and play. When you think about the drivers now, they're much larger than they were when I was learning how to play the game. And what the manufacturers have done is they actually have pulled the weight. They put the weight in the very back of the driver. So if you look at that driver, how big, how large these drivers are, they move the weight all the way in the back. And that makes the club face more forgiving. And if you think about it, if I take a flashlight and I put it up against a wall, there's going to be a very narrow beam. But as I pull that flashlight away from the wall, the beam gets larger and larger and larger. And that beam of light is just like the forgiveness of the club face. So by putting the weight back in the driver, it's definitely going to give you more forgiveness if you don't hit a perfect shot. Hybrids and fairway woods have also replaced long irons. When I was in high school, I had a 1 iron. I don't see any players now with 1 irons, 2 irons, even 3 irons. Longer clubs have been replaced with the hybrids or the high lofted fairway woods. And in golf, loft is your friend. So when I was growing up, the most lofted wedge that was in my bag was a sand wedge, and it was 56 degrees. In the early 90s, Tom Kite made the 60-degree lob wedge famous. And since then, tour players have been using the 60-degree wedge, which is obviously more loft than a 56-degree. And even Phil Mickelson's gone to a 64-degree wedge. So loft is your friend. It makes it a lot easier to hit those high shots around the green. In the short game, loft and bounce are both your friends. The bounce is the bottom of the club. I'm going to talk about this in a moment in the video. But if you're struggling with hitting golf balls off tight lies, hitting high shots off tight lies, I think this video is definitely going to help you. So Caleb, let's go to video number 1, please. Hi, I'm John Decker, Director of Instruction at the Medallion Club and Top 25 Instructor for Golf Tips Magazine. And today I want to work with you on hitting a high pitch shot off of a tight lie. This is a shot that brings a lot of fear into a lot of my students, and a lot of people struggle with this. The easiest way to play this shot is you want to use the bounce of the club. Now my lob wedge has 60 degrees of loft on it, and it has about 10 degrees of bounce. And so the way that I utilize this bounce is I open up the club face. I dial the club face open. Then I take my grip, and when I swing, my whole thought process is to allow the club head to go past my hands. I'm releasing. I'm not holding on or trying to lift it. I'm trying to feel the club head go past my hands and go all the way up into a finishing position where the club's straight up and down. This will produce a high shot, just like this. Learn to use the bounce of your club, and you're definitely going to improve your short game. And again, for those of you who are listening to the show and maybe can't see this video, if you'll go to my YouTube channel, John Decker Golf Instruction, you can actually pull that video up, or you can watch the video on my website, deckergolf.com, when I'll have this video, or the whole show will be posted on the website after we're completed with it. And you can watch that as well, because sometimes you might be hearing it and may not be able to see it. So you can watch that video if you go to the website. But we're coming up on our first break, and when we return, we're going to talk with our special guest, Maddi Shoults. I'm your host, John Decker. You're watching Fairways to Heaven. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to the Fairways to Heaven show. I'm your host, John Decker, and now it's time to bring on today's special guest, Maddi Shoults. But before I bring her on, I'd like to give you a brief some information about her life and just some brief information on her. Maddi is currently a member of the Youngstown State University women's golf team. And she recently graduated, and she majored in psychology. and she'll be starting graduate school at Youngstown State University with 1 year remaining of eligibility. Prior to playing at Youngstown State, she played at Ottawa University in Arizona for 2 years, where she earned second team NAIA All-American honors both years. Now, Maddi has 5 career collegiate wins, and she is a student of mine, and I'm very proud of her. And so, Maddi, welcome to the Fairways to Heaven show. Glad to have you on.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here.
Well, it's great to see you, and I know that you're still up in Youngstown State, but I know you've been playing golf your entire life, and I know that your father had a big influence on you and brought you into the game, and he's a teaching professional. So I want you to just first of all tell the listeners how you got started in the game, and when did your passion for the game of golf really blossom?
Yeah, so as far as I can remember, I had a golf club in my hand. There's
Yeah.
pictures of me when I was 2 or 3 years old with some plastic clubs. I think my dad just always wanted me to play. I remember I played for the first time when I was 4 years old. I had 3 clubs. It was like a driver, an iron, and a putter. And we walked a little par 3 course that's no longer open. And then I kind of played here and there, but I was also playing soccer, so that was kind of my thing for a while. And then my parents kind of told me, okay, you have to choose between one or the other. And I chose golf. And I just remember coming off the bus every day after school and like begging my dad to take me to the driving range. Um, and so that's kind of where I started to love it a lot. When I was younger, there wasn't a lot of kids in my area that played, like, because I was south of Columbus, like, I didn't play with kids my age. And so, my dad, you know, was always hyping me up, telling me how good I was and all this. And I'd never played against kids before. So I remember going into my first US Kids tournament and I shot like a 60 on 9 holes. And I get to the end and um, whoever won shot a 36, and I looked at my dad and I said, I'm not very good. I need to get better. And so that's what I did. And I think I was about 11 or 12 at that point. Um, so I just worked really hard. I had a few different people help me along the way, other than my dad, because I stopped listening to him, as that happens. And but yeah, he really got me into the game, and made me love it. So
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that it's great when you have your mother and father supporting you and introducing you to the game. I was fortunate enough to have that from my father and my mother as well. And so you're blessed to have that. Golf is a game that you need someone encouraging you because, as you know, we get beat up in this game every time we go out on the course. So it's always nice to have someone in your family pulling for you.
yes,
A few years ago, I started working with you almost 2 years ago. I think I was trying to think back. I think it's close to 2 years ago. And your father contacted me and said that, he wanted to see if I would take a look at your swing. And it's been a blessing to have you. And I got to have you as a student. And I got a chance to meet your mother recently at the Ohio State tournament where you were playing. And I got to follow you and play with you. You've made some great strides in, working on your golf swing and some of the things that we've worked on. But I want you to tell the listeners out there about the mindset that you have to have when you're working on a change in your golf swing, but then you're trying to go out and play tournament golf. Talk about the mindset and how you deal with that.
yeah. So I think the main thing is just being patient. I mean, golf comes with a lot of patience anyway. But um, something my dad used to tell me when I was making a swing change is like, don't watch where the ball goes, just swing. And obviously, when you're going into a tournament, that's a little more difficult. Um, But I think you just have to trust yourself. A lot of times I'll tell myself, um, like when I'm getting really upset or nervous for a shot, I'll just be like, you know how to do this. Like you've done this a million
Mm.
times. You don't have to be so stressed out. You know how to hit a golf ball. So that's kind of what I tell myself, even when I'm going through some swing changes. Um, I can always get myself out of that and just be like, just hit the ball. Like, don't worry about it. So,
Yeah. Well, I was, impressed because when I went up and when I watched you play recently when you were at Ohio State, I was impressed with your ability to stick to your routine, and you were really, decisive in everything you did. You had a plan. I could tell that you weren't out there thinking about a million things. I don't like it when my students are making robotic, positions. I like to see people swinging with motion and flow. So that was one of the things when I was watching you play. I was very encouraged to notice in your game. Now I know that you majored in psychology, and I wanted to ask you because I don't think I've ever really asked you this, but are you wanting to get into sports psychology? Is that part of the field, or are you trying to go into a different branch of psychology?
yeah, so my master's right now is in clinical mental health counseling. I kind of want to help athletes with, mental health issues and kind of overcoming things when it comes to sports just because I've been there. So I kind of want to take, this experience from counseling and kind of take it into sports. So kind of like sports psychology, but I would be a counselor, working with athletes. So.
Yeah, and that's so when you say you're working with athletes, are you talking about in their performance? Or are you talking about maybe problems that they might be having at home or with school or things like that? Is it or both? It could be both.
Yeah, it can be both, because once I graduate, I'll have a license, an LPC, which is a licensed professional counselor. So I'm able to, talk about those things with them, whether it be at home or just like in performance. So whether I'm helping them on the golf course or at home. So.
Okay, great. Well, I wanted to I compare doing this show that I'm doing now to playing in a golf tournament. And what I mean by that is, I have to prepare for it. I mean, it takes a lot of time to prepare for the show, just like it takes a lot of time to prepare for a tournament. And then I practice, I practice as well, just like you practice. And when I wake up the morning of the show, I have butterflies, just like I have butterflies when I wake up the morning of a tournament. So I often struggle when I get in tournaments because my mind speeds up. And when I do this show, especially when I first started, I had a million things going through my mind. I've never hosted a show before. So it's hosting this show has taught me a lot about the way I react in tournament. The reason I'm bringing this up is you mentioned to me in some of your preliminary information that you sent me that your coach, Nate, and is Miklos, am I pronouncing that his
Yeah.
last name
Yeah.
properly? I met Nate actually at the tournament, and he's a great guy, and I think he's a great coach. And I
Yeah.
think I've got Haley Bosses, who she's going to be coming there as well. She'll be a
Yeah.
freshman next year. But you mentioned to me in your preliminary information that there are mental exercises that he does with the team on how to quiet the mind. And I want you to just talk about, if you don't mind, some of those exercises that you guys do.
Yeah, so my coach is really focused on like mental health and golf and everything, which is awesome. Um, because I think he's taught me a lot this year on how to, like you said, quiet your mind on the golf course. We actually read a few books this year. One was called Mind Gym, if you've ever heard of it, and that kind of talked about some things that athletes have been through, like real life athletes, and how they dealt with things, and just talking about like resilience and confidence and things like that. And some things we would do is we would practice, deep breathing, different types of breathing, techniques. Sometimes we just kind of find whatever worked for you. So something that I would do when I was frustrated on the course is deep breathing, or I would try to find something like in nature that was that kind of distracted myself, especially on those 36 whole days, where you're out there for 10, 11, 12 hours. You can't be focused the whole time. So,
Yeah.
you know, looking at something else like, oh, there's, these flowers or something, which sounds silly,
Mhm.
but it gets your mind off of,
Mhm.
golf. So yeah, he gives us a lot of different things to work on. We journal a lot, so we'll kind of talk about what went well in our round, what we need to work on, and then what you're going to do. Just kind of different things to get us thinking about the mental part of the game instead of just, working on our swings. Like sometimes he told us we could just come to practice and read a book, like about mental game, or, just work on our breathing or work on what are you thinking about, before you step up to the ball or something like that. So he's really helped me and I think a lot of the girls on the team with, working on our mental game. So
I think that's great. I mean, because you have to be able to quiet your mind. And I think that, like you said, looking at flowers or whatever, this morning before the show, I had a little nervous energy. And so I said, I'm just going to go outside and take a little walk. And I walked, and there were some ducks out in the water. And I just kind of watched them a little bit. And I just I don't know, it just felt peaceful. And when you're playing and you're nervous, you have to be able to do that. And I also loved what you talked about, the breathing. I'm a big believer, and I've been taught that you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, and let your stomach expand so you get as much air into your diaphragm. Because when you get nervous, your breath gets really quick and really rapid, and you're not getting enough oxygen. And it's amazing how taking deep breaths will quiet you down and calm you down when you're nervous. You're going to be nervous in tournaments. I don't care how much you breathe. I don't care how many times you play in tournaments. You're going to be nervous, but getting used to that and eventually turning that negative energy where you feel those nerves into a positive adrenaline where you actually you crave it. Like when I play in tournaments, and I'm back into playing, in senior events now, when I'm playing in tournaments, I don't get those nerves when I go out and play casual rounds of golf, and it's not as fun. I like to have a little bit of that edge, and you seem to
yeah.
focus a little bit better. So those are some great tips. Do you guys do any exercises like together as a whole team, or is it just does he work with you like individually when he's doing these sessions with you?
So yeah, we've done some things together. We actually got to schedule a sound bath. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, through our counseling center here at
Mhm.
school. And we did one just as a team because they were offering them to like all the students. But our coach scheduled one specifically for us. And so we did a sound bath. It's kind of like different noises and stuff that's supposed to calm you down. And like half of my team fell asleep. Uh, so that was really fun. Um, we've done he's told us to try out some yoga, things like that. But he'll come up to us and like ask us personally, what we're working on or what helps us on the course. But yeah, I think we'll do, like, we've done breathing together as a team. So yeah, that's
When you're in your pre-shot routine, okay, and you're getting ready to hit your shot, do you see the shot in your mind, or do you feel the shot?
I think I feel the shot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. For me, I have to feel it first. I cannot hit a shot if I don't feel it, and that was the toughest part of learning how to be a golf instructor, is because I'm standing up in front. And when I started, I was teaching in front of lots of people at once, and standing up in front of people, you're a little nervous. You're going to hit a shot, and so you're a little nervous, like you would be in a tournament. But you're explaining what you're going to do. Well, I don't play golf that way. I don't talk about what I'm going to do when I hit a shot on the golf course. And I really had to force myself to make a few. I would talk about, okay, here's what I'm going to do. But then I had to back away and feel it in a couple of rehearsal swings. And then I found that helped me in hitting the shots. If you're just walking up to the ball and you don't feel the shot, it's really difficult to play the game.
Yeah, I think, I mean, our coach has us do a lot of, um, oh, what's that word? Like imagining shots, like before a round,
Hmm.
and kind of
Visualization.
visualization, that's the
Yes.
word. Visualizing, us hitting good shots, visualizing, one of your best rounds or whatever. But honestly, once I get onto the golf course, I think right before I hit the ball, it's kind of more of like I can imagine how the ball feels like off the club face,
Yeah.
rather than like watching the ball go in the air. So
And that's because you've done it thousands of times in practice, that week, and so you kind of draw upon that. I was listening to an interview of Tiger, and his father said that when he was a kid, or when he was a 14-year-old kid, he took his father took him to a sports psychologist who worked with in the military. He worked with guys who were Green Berets, and it was basically about mental focus and about mental being able to withstand and torture and all that stuff. And so Tiger's sitting there, and the guy's talking to Tiger about. He goes, "I want you to visualize the shot," and Tiger said, "I can't visualize the shot." And he said, "I have to feel it." And when he said that, that was really eye-opening to me, because here's the number one player in the world, probably one of the greatest players to ever play the game. He doesn't see it in his mind. He feels it with his body. And that's why if you watch him when he makes his practice swings, he's very, very purposeful in what he does. So I think everyone's different. Some people see it and they can just see a shot. But feeling, I think, to me, especially in the short game, I think that's where it really matters the most. You don't have to feel the driver nearly as much as you do the putts. So the driver is obviously a big, powerful swing. So good stuff here, Maddie. We're gonna go now to our second break. But when we return, we're going to continue our conversation with today's special guest, Maddi Shoults. I'm your host, John Decker. You're watching Fairways to Heaven. We'll be right back.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth, and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and TuneIn Radio, as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Fairways to Heaven. I'm your host, John Decker, and we are talking with our special guest, Maddi Shoults. Now, Maddi, today's theme is grace, and I chose this theme really because of you, and I'll explain why. Earlier this year, you played in Florida in your first tournament of the year, and I think it was in March. I might be wrong. It could have been February. It was really, the winter up here in Ohio was really bad, so I know that there wasn't a lot of outdoor golf being played. But the first round, you didn't really play that well, and I talked to you after the tournament was over, and you ended up playing really well the next week. I think you shot 69 the next week, and came in like third place. But
Yes.
the first tournament was a little tough, and you said something to me on the phone that was really profound and really impacted me. And you said, I've only played golf You said, I gave myself grace because I hadn't played on grass in months. And I was so impressed with your maturity. If I was your age, or even 5 or 10 years ago, if I had a bad round, I was never giving myself grace. I was beating myself up. I was getting mad. I was getting frustrated. And I was blown away at your maturity at your age to use the word grace and allowing yourself grace and just saying, you know what? Um, I haven't been playing. I'm not going to beat myself up. I know I'm a good player. I know I'm going to come back. And you did. So the question I have for you is, what mentally does it mean to you to give yourself grace?
Yeah, so that was actually, I don't normally make like resolutions, but that was one of my like New Year's resolutions, was to just give myself grace in general. Um, just because like life is hard, golf is hard. And in the end, they say it's just a game. So just kind of like I said before, telling myself, you are a good player, like you've already proven yourself. My dad would tell me that all the time, like you've already proven yourself. You don't need to prove anything else. You know, just having that confidence in yourself still, because everyone has bad days, to just kind of put it behind you and go the next day and just play your game, and whatever happens, happens. So.
Well, I think that is so refreshing, and encouraging for the listeners out there, because I know that we all have a tendency to want to beat ourselves up. And, I have actually learned from you. And I now, when I play, I've mentioned your comments to other golf professionals that I've played with. And I said, I have a student that she said, I'm going to give myself grace. And now when I hit a bad shot, I say, I'm going to give myself grace. I'm not doing this for a living. I'm supposed to be out here. This is supposed to be my leisure activity, fun time. So why come out here and beat myself up if I'm supposed to be having fun? So I love that attitude. And I think that will take you much farther in life. And if you can carry that over into your life as well, which is just as difficult as we know, I think you're going to do really well. Now, next year will be your final collegiate golf season. Unless, I think it is. I think your mother mentioned something about that with the COVID. There might be a possibility of another one, but we'll just assume that next
So
year is your last one.
yeah,
Unless you, unless you're gonna.
it's actually not COVID. It's a lawsuit going through the NCAA.
Oh,
And I
that's what
should
it
know,
was.
yeah. So I should know within the next like 2 weeks if I get another year. So we'll see.
Okay, that's what it was. You're exactly right. I do remember your mother telling me that. So what area do you feel that you need to work on most in your game? It could be the mental side, it could be the physical side, to take you to the next level, because I feel like you're right on the cusp of getting to that next level as a player.
Yeah, so funny story actually. My coach had our end of the year meetings, and he had his meeting with me, and um, he was kind of like, everything looks great overall in your game. I have one of the best up and down percentages on my team. I am pretty much the best ball striker on my team as well. Um, and my putting does need some work, which is funny because I have the best up and down percentage, but one of the worst putting percentages on the team. But you can always work on everything. But he did tell me the biggest thing I need to work on is my mental game, um, which is kind of ironic in two different ways, because I'm sitting here telling you about how, I
Yeah.
am so good at, you know, um, all these things, and I just graduated with psychology, so I should know how to do all these things. But it's easier said than done. Um, but yeah, I just need to continue practicing things. My coach always says you can practice, your swing and everything so that you can do it on the course. But if you don't practice these mental exercises, how are you going to know how to do them on the course? So practicing those things is also important, like the breathing and the visualization, and taking mental breaks. When we're hitting balls and it's the middle of winter and it's 10 degrees outside, it's tough to, get in the mindset to, oh, I have to go to a tournament in Florida next week and I haven't played outside and I'm here hitting
Yeah.
into a net, so taking breaks, he lets us, we've hit 20 balls or so, we can just kind of step back and take some deep breaths and, um, sit down even and just take a break and so we're not, just pounding golf balls and for no reason. So just practicing with a purpose, both with your swing and like mentally, because like I said, how are you going to know what to do on the course if you're not practicing it? So it's important to practice those mental exercises as well. So that's just something I need to work on. I think everyone does, but I think that's the biggest thing, that and putting. So,
Yeah.
yep,
Well, we've addressed your putting a little bit, and I think that that has improved. One of the fact that your up and down percentage is so good, but your putting may not be statistically tells me that you're hitting the ball close to the hole,
yes,
which is really, I've always said if you can hit it close to the hole, you don't have to be a great putter. You just have to be average. But
yeah,
so proximity to the hole is important. So that's good, and that's putting is a skill that can be learned, and can be taught and refined. But it's kind of goes back to what we talked about, the feel aspect. Is playing, putting to me is just putting has always come naturally to me because I play by feel. What I struggle with has always been more in the full swing. So I think from if you can learn to have a little bit more feel with your stroke, I think that will definitely improve those numbers. Now, golf has taught me so many lessons about myself. What life lessons has golf taught you?
um, I think I've just realized how similar they are, um, and like how much patience you have to have, and um, like the resilience you have to have, like coming back from a bad hole. Um, you take a high number on a hole and you have to come back and play the next hole. I think that's what's so difficult about golf that a lot of people don't understand is like there's no subbing you out for another person. It's not like
Yeah,
basketball where, oh, well, you made a triple on this hole, so we're going to put someone else in. That would be nice theoretically, but
yeah,
you have to forget about that hole and just move on. And people don't realize how difficult that is to, maybe take a double, triple on a hole and then even come back with a par on the next hole after doing that. Um, because I think that translates pretty much directly into life. It's kind of like you have this setback, and then how are you gonna deal with it the next day, or the rest of the day? Are you gonna let it ruin your whole day, or are you gonna, come back and be like, that's okay, I have the rest of the day. It doesn't have to ruin it. Because I think a lot of us in life and golf, we let one little thing, ruin it for us, and then the whole rest of the
yeah.
round is bad. The whole rest of our day is bad, and I think that has a lot to do with like resilience, and just putting that behind you and remembering that um, there's more to come, and that doesn't matter anymore because you can't change it. I actually have a quote up here right in front of me that says, you can't worry about um, the future and you can't change the past. So there's no need to, have worry about the past because you can't change it. And that kind of goes with life and golf, because I always think of the quote. I think it's by Ben Hogan. It's like the most important shot is the next one.
Yeah.
And that's something my dad always told me. That was like ingrained into me so that, I wasn't dwelling on a bad shot, because you can't change it. So there's really no point in, you know, worrying about it anymore. And that, like I said, goes into life. Like if something bad happens and you can't change it, then there's no point in stressing out about it anymore. So you just kind of have to have that resilience to just move forward, and kind of work through it. So
Well, you talked there. You mentioned two things that basically were titles for my book. Golf is my life. I try to show how golf and life are are
Yeah.
combined. And then Fairways to Heaven, one shot at a time. And I always talk about, in the book, it's one shot at a time. And at the end of the show, I always say one show at a time. And it's just that mundane of doing it one shot at a time. And golf and life are so similar. So that's a great answer there. So we're coming up on our end of our time here. So I've got two quick questions for you. The first one is, if you could play golf, or if you could only play one round of golf anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I think a lot of people would say Pebble Beach.
Yeah, I
Um,
get that answer a lot.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good
Yeah.
answer. That's a great, unless
Yeah.
there's another course, that's definitely a great answer. So here's the second question. You can have a dream foursome of anyone, dead or alive. It could be anyone. So you're part of the foursome. So you have to pick three other people in your dream foursome.
It would be me, Stacy Lewis, that's like one of my biggest idols.
Yeah.
Jordan Spieth is my favorite male golfer, and probably Nelly Korda. So
Wow, that would be a
but,
great foursome. I would love to see
but
all the side
Jordan,
bets in that.
but Jordan with all the ladies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jordan hopefully will play well, and he could complete the Grand Slam this week if
Yeah,
it's possible. So hopefully he'll play well at the PGA Championship. Well, Maddi, thank you for coming on today's show. I know we have a lesson in a few weeks. I look forward to seeing you then. But thank
yeah,
you for coming on today's show.
yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, John.
You're welcome. Well, it's time for our final break. And when we return, I want to talk about the difference between golf and God's grace. You're watching Fairways to Heaven. I'm John Decker. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to the Fairways to Heaven show on Bold Brave TV. I'm your host, John Decker, and a special thank you to Maddi Shoults, a recent graduate and player on the Youngstown State women's golf team, for coming on today's show. She did a great job. Now, I want to talk to you about the difference between golf and God's grace. And first, let's talk about grace on the golf course. Now, the golf course rarely provides grace. Occasionally, I might hit a drive into the trees, and my ball will hit a tree and kick back into the fairway. Or sometimes I'll hit a shot up by the green and it looks like it's going to go in the bunker and it takes a good kick and goes on the green. But very rarely does that happen because I'm dealing with a lot of obstacles out there with bunkers and water and rain and uneven lies and penalty shots and all these different things that you deal with on the golf course. So there's very, very little grace on the golf course. In tennis, if my opponent hits the ball into the net twice, I get a point. In other sports, if my opponent makes a mistake, I get the ball or I get a point or I get an advantage, like a field advantage, like in football. If a team fumbles in their own territory, I get the ball in their territory. The golf course provides little grace and no free point. You get nothing free in golf. Okay. I tell my juniors all the time, in golf, there's a lot of math. So you better learn your math. I said, you're always adding and you're never subtracting. For example, if you can't hit the ball over the water, so if I'm standing there and I've got a shot over water and I can't get the ball over the water, I hit my ball in the water, I hit my shot, now I have to take a penalty. I've got to re-hit that shot over the water. If I can't get it over the water, I could stand there all day long until I either pick up or run out of golf balls. So you must work, obviously, to get better so that you can hit it over the water. And in order to improve in the game of golf, you are going to have to work. It's a very difficult game. It requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of practice. And it requires a lot of patience to become a better player. But when it comes to God's love for his children, golf is not like God's grace. In Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 through 10, it states, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." In other words, we cannot work our way into heaven like we can work our way into becoming a better golfer. And what's even more amazing is God's grace and forgiveness is a gift paid for by the blood of his Son, Jesus Christ. All we have to do is have faith and repent of our sins. And through God's grace, we are forgiven and saved to do good works. We're not saved because of our works. We're saved so that we can do good works. In golf, you work hard and hope to one day see your hard work pay off in lower scores. But God's grace is the complete opposite. The work has already been paid for by Jesus Christ and his work on the cross. So put your faith in him, repent, and receive God's love and grace. A friend of mine at Grand Cypress, when I was there, got a chance to play golf with Brad Faxon. And he was playing with Brad Faxon, and he had a double bogey on a hole, and he got visibly upset. And Brad Faxon told him, said, just because you make a double bogey doesn't mean that you're a bad person. God freely gives us grace, and he expects us to give grace to others as well. And it starts with us forgiving ourselves. I think that is one of the most difficult things that we can do in life is forgive ourselves. On the golf course, you can't beat yourself up. And so you have to give yourself some grace. This game is extremely difficult. So the same grace should be extended to ourselves in the game of life as well. Like Maddi giving herself grace early in the season under tournament pressure, we can all learn from her example. Well, once again, we've reached the 18th hole of today's episode. Thank you for watching the Fairways to Heaven show on Bowl Brave TV. We'll see you next week when once again we glorify God through the game of golf, one show at a time. Until next time, I'm your host, John Decker. God bless.
This has been Fairways to Heaven with host John Decker. Tune in each week for the very best in the game of golf, including fundamentals and solid game advice that John will share for a better and more satisfying game. Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.